so much. New York State's new governor is wasting absolutely no time getting down to business. Kathy Hochul took the oath of office yesterday and then spent the day meeting with state's leaders. Now the hard part begins, governing amid a pandemic and its economic fallout.
All right, state lawmakers each have their own priorities for the governor to focus on. Joining us this morning is Senate Deputy Leader, Queens Senator Michael Gianaris. Senator, thanks for being with us.
Good morning.
Well, lots of optimism and happy talk right now. How long do you think the new governor has to operate before politics enters the equation again and things start getting bogged down?
Well, look, first of all, coming off the experience of Andrew Cuomo for the last decade, I think we are all just excited to have someone who respects the separation of powers, respects the legislature and the role we have. And I think so far she's hit all the right notes. There's a lot of work that needs to be done that was left by the wayside while this executive branch was paralyzed the last several months due to the scandals. And I know for the legislature, we're just anxious to roll up our sleeves and get the state moving in the right direction. We'll leave the politics for another day. Election year is next year.
Now, the Governor Hochul has quite a task in getting people just to believe in government again. She's mentioned that she wants to make things transparent, but what does that look like on a day-to-day basis, you know, just in a practical way to, you know, New York people that live here?
Well, it means enough with the lies and enough with the manipulations, whether it was the nursing home scandals or the way the previous governor dealt with the harassment stories against him. It was always wondering what is true, what isn't, what is he saying, and what does he mean? Just having someone who tells it like it is straightforward with the people. You know, those of you who are in the media have been complaining for years about FOIL requests being unmet by the previous administration. I know just yesterday on her first day, Kathy Hochul indicated that she's going to move expeditiously to get information out to the public when it's requested. Those are the kinds of things that seem simple, but because they weren't happening, really created a distrust of state government. So hopefully we'll start moving away from that.
You know, there are a lot of pressing issues. Among the top of the list, eviction moratorium ends soon. The state sitting on $2 billion in money, only a fraction of which has gone out. The deadline is September 30th for 65% of that money to go out, or it has to go back to the feds. How confident are you we're going to be able to get that to the people who need it?
Well, that's a great example of what I was just talking about. We've got over $2 billion in rent relief that hasn't gone out the door. We are the last state in the nation to move that money, and arguably the state with the greatest need. So that's just a real shame that that happened, but that's seen across a number of issues. There's the New York HERO Act that I was proud to have written with Assemblymember Curtis Reyes that requires workplaces to have pandemic protections in place now that we're reopening. And we couldn't even get the Department of Health to certify that we are in a pandemic that endangers public health, if you can believe that. So those are the kinds of things we need to get going on. Kathy Hochul indicated yesterday she intends to move very quickly on all this stuff. We're going to keep her feet to the fire if we work with her to get that money out the door, because it's all related. The eviction moratorium is necessary because people have been back on rent because of the problems of the last year and a half. So if that money gets out the door, that will also help alleviate some of the burdens people are facing in terms of their homes.
I know that they have made some updates to that rent relief program in terms of just making it a bit easier for people to use on their website. But there is also no secret that we have a record number of job openings right now. What are we doing, and how are it seems like we're failing people by not being able to connect them to jobs available and make sure that they get that financial help where it's not just coming from rent relief?
Yeah, well, look, rent relief is dealing with a problem that has existed and continues to exist. It's less, well, there's certainly housing-stressed people all over New York that we need to focus on, but the rent relief program was intended to deal with people who, for the last year and a half, had lost jobs, had lost income, and were back on their rent. And the estimate was it was about a little over $2 billion in need that needed to be met. That money is now there. We just have to get it out there. The applications have been submitted, from what I gather. It's just that the agency is not moving fast enough to process them, and hopefully we'll do that. As for people getting back to work, as you mentioned, now we have restaurants and all sorts of other businesses that are struggling to find people to go do the work. So we need to do a better job of letting people know what's available to them and getting people back out in the workplaces. I think some of it may be reluctance to get back out there as the Delta variant moves ahead. But if we do it safely, we can reopen and continue to get the economy growing.
And, you know, speaking of back to work, I mean, a lot of people are upset that lawmakers aren't in session until January. Do you expect to see a special session called? Should you guys be at work, too, given the weight of all the issues we're facing right now?
believe me, I mean, people like to point that out, but the job is not just being in session in Albany. It has always been a January to June session for many, many years. And then the remainder of the time we are in district doing work. Believe me, I work harder out here in Astoria and in Western Queens than I do even when I'm in Albany, if you can believe that, because there's a tremendous need, especially now, back in the district. So let me just say, me and all my colleagues are working extremely hard when we're back home. As for session, we're scheduled to go back in January. If there's a need sooner than that, we always stand ready to go back, whether it's extending the eviction moratorium or whatever it is. We need to get agreement with the new governor and with our colleagues in the assembly, and I'm sure we'll be back at a moment's notice as necessary.
Senator Gianaris, just quickly, I know you spoke to Governor Hochul last week. What does she have to say about stepping into this role?
Look, I think she is ready for this. She is a qualified individual. She's a glass ceiling breaker, as we all know, our first female governor in New York State's history. And she has the right attitude coming off of what was essentially a tyrannical approach to state government. A governor that did it his way or no way, did not care about the fact that there were over 100 to over 200 other elected leaders who have been sent to do their jobs in state government on behalf of the people they represent. And it eventually caught up with him because that kind of attitude permeates the entire workplace in his whole approach. And you saw that with all the numerous scandals that befell him. Kathy Hochul is a very different person with a very different approach. Even when we disagree on issues, I'm confident that it's going to be a respectful discussion where hopefully we can come to agreement in the best interest of the state, and that's what we're here to do.
Very well. Sounds good. All right. State Senator, Senate Deputy Leader Michael Gianaris, we appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right.